Welcome back to Travel to Learn. This is Beyond the Basics and I'm excited to talk about buoyancy. Let's get into it. What is buoyancy control? As you've already learned, buoyancy control is divided into three classifications. We've got positively buoyant, neutrally buoyant, and negative buoyant. So what we want to accomplish when we are scuba diving is being in a neutral, horizontal position. Not only does that create a streamline effect, but it helps you move efficiently through the water. It helps you be more relaxed. It helps you conserve air. It can increase your bottom time. It is great for photography. It is great for drift diving, and for me personally, what I love most about it is just that feeling of absolute weightlessness, of controlling every single inch of the water by just using my breath. Being in a completely comfortable position, completely relaxed, without my fins dropping too much, my body going upright, or my fins picking up and my body keep tilting forward. Neutral buoyancy is what really sets you aside from having a good experience to having the best dive ever. Now let's talk a little bit more about how to achieve neutral buoyancy. To achieve neutral buoyancy, you need essentially the four things or four tools. You're going to need a buoyancy control device, you will need your weights, you will need proper finning techniques, and you will need breathing control. So let's dive into each of those sections separately. Let's talk about the buoyancy control devices. So I want to cover mainly two different types here. You get the side inflation BCD, which is most likely the one that you've been trained on. It is standard across the industry. Every dive center rental most of the time have side inflation BCDs. The second one is the back inflation. So before I give the pros and cons between the two, my setup is a back inflation system. It is something that works for my configuration, which I have tweaked over many years. And the reason why the back inflation works for me is because my configuration sits like this in the water. My feet's very down, my upper body tends to stay up. So two solutions here: you either bring your feet up by getting a lighter fin, or you add more weight on the top. So you can either move or shift your cylinder up forward, or you can, what I did, and the reason I chose a back inflation, is you get a back plate that weighs up to about 2 kilos if you use the steel back plate. And because I've added more weight to the front, or more weight on my upper body, it actually managed to bring my upper body down in a more horizontal position. That is the reason I dive it. It is a lot more streamlined as well. I literally just have a harness, so removed all the clutter and all the bulk on the actual system, which creates a bit more of a streamlined effect for me as well. Now let's talk about the weights. The weights are probably the most crucial thing to always consider. It doesn't matter what gear you dive with, it's always going to come down to weights. It's like the epicenter of buoyancy. You always want to make sure that you have the right amount of weight. Being underweight or overweight can really throw off your entire dive. So a quick tip that you can introduce into your daily or your dive trip habits: before you get on any dive trip, make sure that you know exactly which conditions you'll be diving in, whether it's going to be saltwater or freshwater, whether you're going to be diving with a 3mm wetsuit or 5mm wetsuit. All these things play a massive factor on your buoyancy and the amount of weights that you need. So by knowing the exact conditions you'll be diving with or diving in, knowing the exact equipment that you'll be diving with, you can then perform a simple weight check either quickly before the dive in the pool or on your first dive. It's a check that takes 5 to 10 seconds that can determine exactly how much weight you need. Making the weight check part of your travel routine can make the world of difference. So what I like to do is, as soon as I arrive on my trip, I know exactly what conditions I'll be diving in, with what equipment I'll be diving with. I jump in the pool for 5-10 seconds before the launch, like literally 30 minutes before. I get there a little earlier, get my equipment all set up, assembled, jump in the pool, and then I quickly do this check to know exactly how much weight I need for the upcoming dive and the rest of the trip. You can fine tune this on like the first dive or the second dive, but this gives you a very close indication of how much weight you need for the upcoming dive itself. When it comes to weights, you get a few different systems. You get the weight belt system, which you can add individual weight blocks onto the belt itself. The nice thing about the weight belt is because you can adjust the individual blocks, you can counterbalance it on a dive, for example. If you feel you are turning a little lopsided to the one side, you can adjust the weight blocks a little bit more to the other side to kind of counter it and stabilize your trim. The integrated weight system is another nice one where with this particular BCD, the integrated system clips straight into the pocket of the BCD system, which is a nice way to not have that amount of weight on your back itself. It's on the side of the BCD, which kind of relieve that weight from your back. And it's also a nice way knowing that you have 4 weights in this side, 4 weights in this side, and it's equally balanced. Then you get things like trim pocket weights. You get systems where you can add it on the cylinder itself. You have ankle weights, and all these different weight systems are there to help refine your trim. So for example, if you struggle with having your upper body more upright, by adding just 2 weights in your trim pockets on the top, it can help add a bit more weight, bringing your trim more horizontal. For example, if you have very floaty ankles and your feet keep floating up, having ankle weights can help bring that down as well. So just by using the weight systems, you can help refine and perfect your trim more horizontally. It is important to remember that changing your diving environment from freshwater to saltwater, you will need more weights. Changing the equipment that you're diving in from a 5mm wetsuit to a 3mm wetsuit, you will need less weight. Changing your cylinder, like going from a steel to aluminium, you will require more weight. So knowing that anytime you change your environment or you change the equipment that you're diving in, you will require either less or more weight. By doing a simple weight check can rule out all of these things and tell you exactly how much weight you need for that specific area and that specific equipment that you'll be diving in. If you want a way to log and track your weight usage over different equipment and environments, download the free PDF guide below. Now let's talk about fins. Fins is a topic that is not nearly covered enough and can really make the world of difference to your buoyancy. When looking at a fin, you get different weight classes. So you get a heavy fin, one that is neutral, and one that floats. And knowing this and understanding this concept can make and change your game for the rest of your dive career. Let's use my configuration as a demonstration. I've always struggled with my feet dragging at the bottom, my upper body being more upright. So after trying a few things like moving my cylinder upwards, changing my weight a little and push it a little bit more forward, all of those things definitely help bring it more in a horizontal position. The key ingredient here that changed my game forever was when I changed my fin from a heavy weight class to a more positively buoyant weight class, and that have just put me in a completely horizontal position. This has also changed the way hundreds of my students dive, just purely by giving them the recommendation of the different weight classes in fins. Now let's start talking about some finning techniques. The first thing I want to cover is the main basic one, which everybody is used to and starts with, which is the scissor technique. This one is a really beneficial technique if you want to get quickly from point A to B. However, it does take a bit more energy, can burn through your air, and therefore resulting in a decrease in your bottom time. My personal favorite and the one that I like the most is the frog kick technique. And the reason I love it the most, it slows my diving right down, therefore conserving my energy. It conserves my air, which increases my dive time. It slows down my breathing, and it also beneficial to not kick up any silt or disturb the bottom, kick the coral or the reef and environment around you. Now let's talk about breathing. Breathing is the thing that ties all of these things together and goes hand in hand with buoyancy. You can have the best gear in the world, the best finning technique, the best fins, but without being able to control your breathing, your buoyancy will just never be good. To better your breathing, these are the steps that you need to take. The first thing you want to consider is what is your current breathing technique, your current breathing count. So for example, are you breathing in 4 seconds and out 4 seconds? Are you breathing in 6 seconds and 4 seconds out? The key here is to always try and focus on a nice deep inhalation in, but the exhalation, this is the key, has to be a lot longer out. So start off with what feels comfortable for you, but I've managed to get to a point where I breathe in 3 seconds, which is comfortable for me. So I go and then breathe out very slowly for 7 seconds. This breathing technique of having a slower and longer exhalation relaxes you. it gets rid of dead air, and therefore increases your bottom time. So keeping in mind and finding your breathing count that is comfortable to you, which differs from individual to individual, but finding your breath count can determine the next step. So now that you've established a breathing count that is comfortable for you, whether it was at home or on your next dive, then you want to use that as your foundation to control your buoyancy and use your BCD then to compensate for the rest. All right, so now that we know what tools we need and what breathing techniques that we need to control our buoyancy effectively and better underwater, now I'm going to do a little roundup just to tie it all together. So with the BCD, now we've either picked a side inflation or a back inflation. Whether the weights are integrated or strapped on, we've got some spares just to help with our trim, to streamline our trim a bit. And now we've got our fins, whether they're buoyant, neutral or heavy. We've got the finning technique that we want to test. And now we've also got our breathing technique. Once you've got all of these things, now you want to go into the pool or try them out on your next dive. A great idea would be to consider doing a Peak Performance Buoyancy workshop or the PADI Peak Performance Buoyancy speciality. This gives you time in the water with a PADI instructor to refine and fine-tune your configuration and your gear setup. Now that you have some techniques, let's put them into action together. My personal recommendation would be to start in the pool. It is a controlled environment. It allows you to lie flat on the bottom and will allow you to put these techniques into practice. My first technique that I would start with is lie flat on the bottom with all your air dumped in the BCD and start checking your breathing. So with your breath count, minus 3 seconds, I'll take 1, 2, 3 seconds in. I'll wait 2 seconds just to see what happens because there is a delayed reaction underwater. If after 2 seconds I slowly start rising up, then I know that I am neutrally buoyant and then I can breathe out, come back down again. If after 3 seconds I breathe in and nothing happens, that means that the amount of air that's in my lungs is not enough to lift me off the bottom. And now I have to go to my BCD and compensate for what my lungs can't do by adding just 1 or 2 small bursts of air. So I'll now go psh, psh, added 2 breaths or 2 bursts of air in the BCD. Now I go back to my breath. 1, 2, 3. After 3 seconds, now I'll start to see that I rise. If I don't rise, then I just repeat the process until I do. Once I start rising, that means now I'm neutrally buoyant. But now, if I hold my breath, I'm just going to completely go vertical and I'm most likely going to start floating to the surface. So now this is where the buoyancy effect comes in. So as you rise, you now want to compensate by breathing out. So remember my count was 7 seconds out. So here I want to breathe out 7 seconds, and as I breathe out, I'm going to get to a point where I stop. Again, wait 1 or 2 seconds just for the delayed reaction to kick in and for you to start falling. Then as soon as you start falling, then you jump back into your breath by going 1, 2, 3, wait 1 or 2 seconds, wait for you to rise up again, and then start breathing out. Breathe out, breathe out, breathe out until you get to 7 seconds, 8 seconds. Wait 1 or 2 seconds, wait for you to come down. And once you can master that, that means you have now mastered buoyancy control in a neutral position. With just these few adjustments, you are on your way to better buoyancy control, becoming a better, a safer, and a more confident diver. If you want me to help you fine-tune your trim, help master breathing techniques, and advance your buoyancy skills, then be sure to check out the Buoyancy Masterclass in the Ultimate Playbook. See you in the next one. Start exploring today.